Welcome back to the news today. This is a one-on-one. Dr. Gadi Taub is an Israeli historian, author, screenwriter, and political commentator. He is a senior lecturer in the School of Public Policy at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Taub sees himself as a Zionist in what he calls the original meaning of the term, that is, a believer in the rights of all people, including the Jews, for self-determination in their own nation states. Good evening, Dr. Taub. Thank you very much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
So explain to me, because, you know, Zionism became, in one way or another, around the world like a curse. Of course, it's a curse for the Arab countries and the Western countries. It's also some kind of a curse. And Jews are fighting inside the Jewish state. Who is more Zionist than who? The left, the right? What is the meaning of Zionism and why it got such a bad negative meaning around the world?
Well, I think we shouldn't exaggerate the negative meaning too, but I think you're right that it's been tinged with an ideology of blood and soil, in the sense that the original Zionist creed conceives of nation states as fulfilling the democratic rights of peoples to self-determination. And our Declaration of Independence states very clearly it's the natural right of the Jewish people to be, like all peoples, masters of their own fate in their own sovereign state. This is not an original creed that we invented. I think this is the essence of the democratic creed. And this creed has been perverted by a kind of Zionism which sees the core of ideology as a return to the land of the forefathers. The land has always been a means, not an end in itself, for the original Zionism. And if we look at history, we see that for a long time Zionists debated where the Jewish state could be. And I think there were somewhere in the area of 30-something ideas, including Madagascar, Crimea, Uganda, Argentina, and basically everywhere except Antarctica has been proposed for the Jewish state.
Nice places, you know.
Some of them nice. Like Madagascar seems tempting. But none worked because Israel is, the land of Israel is woven into the narrative of identity. And so...
And religion.
And religion. And I think that in this sense, Israel was a necessary means, the land of Israel, but still a means. And so things came to a head when you ask, what's more important? Political independence in the form of democratic self-determination or redeeming land? Because if you're going to redeem land, you're going to lose the Jewish majority. You're going to expand into a territory beyond the Jewish majority. And first of all, you're going to violate the principle of self-determination by preventing another people from achieving it. Secondly, you're going to live in a binational state. And Zionism is unfeasible unless there is one patch of land under the sun where the Jews are a majority.
So for a lot of, let's say, our Israeli viewers, you will sound like a really extreme, nowadays, you will sound like a really extreme leftist, that they think that you are too much of, let's say, trying to see the world and paint the world in pink, and this doesn't work like that, because at the end of the day, we got to a war between religions, because it's between the Islam, between Christianity, between Jews, with the extreme jihadism, with the extreme Islam that we're seeing. It's not all about the land, it's also about existence.
Well, I wish you were right, because I've been more or less expelled from the tribe of the left for the heresy of saying that I don't think we'll see peace in our time. And for a long time, I've been advocating the idea of separation before peace. We should strive for separation because the real danger is binationalism, and binationalism is not going to be a Switzerland here. It is going to be a permanent civil war. We can look at our neighbor Lebanon, and we can think of Bosnia. This is what we're going to have. So I am not a believer in good intentions on the Palestinian side. I don't think they're striving for peace. They could have had a state of their own had they agreed to the idea of partition. They haven't. And so I think it's time we draw the necessary conclusions and say we cannot have peace, but separation is our most vital interest. Also,
what does it mean? What does it mean, separation? Separating between the Israelis and the Palestinians? Because you will see a lot of Arab Israelis here that see themselves as Palestinians. So what are you going to tell them? Go there, we are here, just...
No. They can be a minority in the Jewish state as they are now. The settlers can be a minority in the Palestinian state. that would be, but there is a recognized international border, and we should separate along these lines with some necessary land swaps if need be. But this is the established line of partition. So I don't think that the issue is philosophical at all. It's pragmatic. And Israel, by the way, recognizes this line so long as Israeli law does not apply beyond that line. You know, that the sovereign in the territories is not the Knesset, it's the army.
So explain to me what is happening in the last few months, maybe in the last few years in Israel. How come Israel got to the point that it's suggesting the nationality law? How come Arab minority in Israel feels that it's, in one way or another, not at all part of the state of Israel, although it should be? What is happening? Is it a problem of leadership, or is it a problem of, let's say, like you said, two societies that cannot actually work out and maybe handle themselves in the same land?
So long as we stay in the territories with military rule, this festering wound will keep having repercussions. And the left would shout that we should get out of here, and the right would respond with
we should stay.
Such laws as the ones establishing Israel as a Jewish state, which, by the way, is completely unnecessary because it's established already.
And it's already recognized as a Jewish state.
A declarative act which does amazing collateral damage without doing any good. So the issue is going to keep festering as long as we stay there. But I don't think that the description of the two societies inside Israel is as you portray it, because relatively speaking, it's surprisingly good. We have a very large minority. Many democratic states have minorities. This is, by the way, Israel's constitutional structure as a Jewish state corresponds to the EU's guidelines of nation states and their relations to minorities. So we are exactly like Denmark.
How it deteriorated? How come it deteriorated so much in the last few months?
I'm surprised it didn't
deteriorate before.
Become much worse, because we have a very large minority which belongs to a nation with which we have 100 years of war. This is not like having a Hungarian minority in Romania, because there is no war between Hungary and Romania for a while. There hasn't been, by the way. They're both on the same side in the Second World War. But here there's a conflict that's going on for more than 100 years, and it's surprising how much the minority within Israel feels free. Because, you know, you look at the Arab parliamentarians, and some of them are provocateurs in the extreme, and you ask yourself, where in the Arab world could Ahmad Tibi speak against the state like he can in Israel? And this sort of makes me proud. I don't like what he says. I think he's creating provocations, and they may have bad consequences. But I'm still very proud of the fact that this country is so democratic and so tolerant that it allows not just Ahmad Tibi, but also things that are completely outrageous, like a party in the parliament supporting the enemy in a time of war. You show me an American, a British, or a French parliamentarian supporting the enemy in a time of war and staying out of jail.
We're talking, I agree with you, but we were talking about the same country that just in '92, one of its people killed the prime minister. So because in '95, so we're talking about that. These ideas are not accepted on other people as well. Yeah,
this is a very complex, immigrant, diverse society. And, you know, when you are really tolerant, you reach very complicated paradoxes. So what do you do with the classic? What do you do with women's rights in a minority that believes in male chauvinism, like the ultra-Orthodox? So on the one hand, you have to tolerate their worldview. On the other hand, you believe that they should tolerate the women's point of view. And so these, by the way, Herzl already foresaw this paradox.
But I will put here, I will put a dot here because we're out of time, unfortunately. Dr. Gadi Taub, thank you very much for this. And let's not forget that this is a really, really, really young country. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, our viewers, for being with us tonight. Tomorrow we'll be here at the same time, same place from the Jaffa Port, Israel. Have a great night.